Welcome to Daniel's Inferno. Today's little helper is Mr. Meeseeks. For those who don't know, Mr. Meeseeks is a little helper from Rick and Morty, and he's here to help me get through a bunch of nonsense from Blizzard. And apparently my cat is as well. Thank you very much for joining me. So, today, we are going to talk about the Blizzard controversy that I did a video on the other day. And ironically, Blizzard put out a release on a Friday for a long weekend in Canada, and it was technically released in North America on the 11th, but the date of the release is the 12th, and we'll talk about why that's significant in a moment. So, this is the statement. As you can see here at the top, it is October 12th. So, Blizzard talks about their vision to bring the world together through epic entertainment. And their core values that apply are think globally, lead responsibly, and every voice matters, which people have been saying is very hypocritical because they were not thinking globally when they punished someone for their thoughts on Hong Kong. They were not responsible, and more importantly, the voice of that person didn't matter. So they encourage people to share their point of view, which we obviously know is not true. So they talk about here how the player used his segment to make a statement. In violation of the rules, he acknowledged and understood, and this is why they took action. They say that although every voice matters and that people should express themselves, the broadcast needs to be about the tournament and to be a place where all are welcome. In support of that, we want to keep the official channels focused on the game. Now, I'd like to just say quickly that I actually think that that point is valid. I do think that official channels should be about the game personally. However, Blizzard did not punish an American university team for holding up a boycott Blizzard and free Hong Kong sign during an official broadcast. So, they obviously are not being very, very coherent, and the cohesion of their thoughts is not there very clearly. So they talk about why the shoutcasters were taken out. Were the actions based on the content of the message? Now, I'm going to read this to you because a little bit later in the video, I have something else to show you that contradicts what they say here. So part of thinking globally, leading responsibly, and every voice matters is recognizing that we have players and fans in almost every country in the world. So they're trying to imply that because there are Chinese players, they were trying to protect them. Our goal is to help players connect in areas of commonality, like their passion for our games, and create a sense of shared community. Before this all happened, I personally think that Blizzard did a very good job of that. Now, I no longer think that. The specific views expressed by Blizchung, the player, were not a factor in the decision we made. I want to be clear, our relationship in China had no influence on our decision. Now, that is the most important part of this entire statement. Let me just finish, and I'll tell you why. We have these rules to keep the focus on the game and on the tournament to benefit of a global audience, and that was the only consideration in the actions we took. If this had been the opposing viewpoint delivered in the same divisive and deliberate way, we would have felt and acted the same way. Now, I'd like to just say this was not divisive. I was very deliberate, but it was not divisive at all. I mean, the only way it's divisive is by hurting China and by hurting the government there and by Blizzard taking a stance. If they were to take a stance that said, we support Blizchung 100% in what he said, not only would it hurt their profits, but it would make a very big statement to a lot of people there. Obviously, a lot of Chinese people would be upset, but it would still make a very large statement. So they talk about what they can do better. They actually talk about how Blizchung played fair, and they believe he should receive his prizing. but they do acknowledge that this is not technically about the prize for some, and perhaps for others it is disrespectful to even discuss it. That is not our intention. So it includes appropriate pre- and post-match conduct, especially when a player accepts recognition for winning in a broadcast. When we think about the suspension, 6 months for Blizchung is more than appropriate, and later on with the casters, they're setting their suspension to 6 months as well. They are going to apply tournament rules to our official broadcasts and make sure they remain focused on the game. This last little blurb at Blizzard, we are always listening and finding ways to improve. Bull. It is part of our culture. Thank you for your patience with us as we continue to learn. They're not learning. That's just, they're learning worse than a newborn baby. They're not learning anything. Now, let me just show you why that blurb about how their relationship with China had no influence on their decision. Let me tell you why that's so important here. Just give me one moment. So, as you can see on my screen here, there's a little post. So this post is actually from Weibo, and I believe it's actually from the Blizzard Weibo account. Now, Weibo is essentially, it's like Facebook for China. It is the largest social media website in China. So very clearly Blizzard is going to have an account there. So we are very angered and disappointed at what happened at the event and do not condone it in any way. We also highly object to the spreading of personal political beliefs in this manner. Effective immediately, we've banned the contestant from events and terminated work with the broadcasters. We will always respect and defend the pride of our country. Now, that last little bit, we will always respect and defend the pride of our country. Which country? Aren't you an American company? Or has Tencent taken over so much that you don't even recognize with where you started, with where your player base started? It's just disrespectful. It's disgusting. Now, if Blizzard actually felt like what they did was wrong, they would not have that Weibo posting up still. The fact that that post is still up says to me and says to many other players that Blizzard is trying to appease people. Not to mention the releasing of the statement on a Friday is bull. It's absolutely beyond the pale. I can't believe it. What they're trying to do when companies release things on a Friday after working hours, after stocks are closed for the week, is they are trying to bury it. This is an appeasement. I expect, as do many other people, that Blizzard is going to come out with some sort of shiny little bauble or trinket for the player base as another little distraction, in the hopes that with this fake apology and the distraction that I think they're going to provide, they're hoping that it's going to blow over. But I can tell you from the responses I'm reading on Blizzard forums and on Twitter, it says to me, this isn't blowing over. This is getting worse. And this fake PR statement was a shot in the foot. It was nothing more than putting the noose around their own neck. They hung the noose, and now they put their neck in it. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Daniel's Inferno. This is Mr. Meesinks. Have a lovely day.